What is up, guys? It is your boy Keezy. We've got movies of 2022. This is best movies, favorite, worst, a bunch of stuff we got to cover here. But before we get into it, if you like movie content, pop culture, anything related to this kind of stuff that you see on the channel, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you thumbs up this video if you end up enjoying it. Place in the comments below your top 10 favorite movies of the year, or just your favorite. Maybe movies that you saw that you didn't expect were to be great and they exceeded your expectations, or some disappointments. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video. Disclaimer, guys, I know this video is super long. That's because we got a bunch of categories for this video. And if you guys want to skip to like my favorite movies of the year or like my worst, you guys should skip to the chapters below. You should see it. My honorable mentions chapter is the honorable mentions of my top 10 list. So if you guys want to start there, you guys can, but all the chapters are below. But feel free to watch the whole video. That would mean a ton if you just spent an hour with me. But yeah. So I'm gonna start off with 5 movies that I think I very much enjoyed, or ones that I think you guys should definitely check out this year. For number 1, we've got Kimmy. Kimmy starring Zoe Kravitz. It's kind of this thriller set a little bit in modern era, but like a little in the future. It's just a really interesting short movie. It's condensed, but you know, I think they did very great here. Zoe Kravitz did amazing. It feels almost like just in its own space, right? Most of the movie takes place in like 3 locations, but I really liked it. And Zoe Kravitz was amazing. It really gave me this sense of urgency. It's one of those movies where you're watching it and you, as an audience member, feel that anxiety. The next movie is See How They Run. We've gotten a couple of good mystery movies this year. See How They Run is definitely in there. It's almost like a mystery comic book movie. It's played out like a comic, but I will say what they did here with the writing was really what made me put it on this list. It's this super almost fun mystery movie, but it's written in a way where everything connects so seamlessly, but it's also adapting like a real world thing. It's just really interesting. I don't want to give too much away, but I thought the performances by I will say Adrian Brody was pretty good in this movie. I like the accent he had. And Sam Rockwell, I love him in everything. He was hilarious in here. I thought it was a lot of fun. A little mystery movie that played with a mystery play that exists in real life. Played on that, but also within the movie. It was a very meta movie in that way, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. The next movie is going to be The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Now, if you guys are looking for a movie that is just fun as hell, it's funny, it's meta, it's everything that you could want when you think of Nicolas Cage. This is the most Nicolas Cage movie. It even has multiple versions of Nicolas Cage. Pedro Pascal is in here as well, and it's basically almost a buddy cop type movie. But if you guys ever watched The Lost City, which came out earlier last year, with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum, it was terrible. This is like what The Lost City was trying to do, except like way better, way more funny. Everything made a lot more sense. It wasn't as predictable. I just loved it. It was a lot of fun. The next is gonna be The Black Phone. The less I say about this movie, the better. It is a really good, almost horror but thriller, but almost it's like a psychological horror on top of that. It's multiple things. It's not one of those movies that's super scary. It's more kind of unsettling, and there's a curious approach to this. Ethan Hawke's amazing in here. I can't recommend this movie enough. I try to keep anything I say about this movie limited, because people that end up watching this movie really like it, and I don't want to ruin that. So if you guys haven't watched Black Phone yet, go ahead and check out The Black Phone. And for the 5th movie, I'm gonna say Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, man. It was something, just, it brought a tear to my eye. It's heartwarming, puts you in that Christmas spirit. And if you haven't checked it out, which I think, most of you guys definitely should have, but if you haven't, give it a watch. It's a ton of fun. It kind of makes you just forget about any bad things going on in life. puts you in that spirit, makes you want to just do good. It's just a very heartwarming movie and sets up Guardians 3 to be excruciatingly painful. And next we've got a different section, okay? We've got hot take, okay? This is where I'm just going to give the most hot take of the year or of 2022. And for me, my hot take is Tar with Cate Blanchett was disappointing. It wasn't even that great to me. Cate Blanchett killed it. She should definitely be nominated. Everything outside of that, I understand it's a real artsy movie, but it takes an approach where it's a story that's so simple and could be told within like an hour, but they stretched it to almost 3, and it becomes this dragging movie. And on top of that, the movie's about a world-renowned composer that's regarded as the best of this generation, yet we got to hear like no music from her. Every time she begins music, it cuts off within like 10 seconds, and it's like, hey, I wanted to hear that. And all the movie kept doing was making a couple mistakes or dragging on a little bit, and then the ending really solidified that this movie just, I had such high hopes for this movie, and it disappointed me. The character in this movie basically does not learn her lesson, and then on top of that, it just reminded me why Whiplash is GOAT to me, why it's God tier to me. It's not only because of the performance from J.K. Simmons, but it's also because it's an hour and 30. It's paced properly, and you actually hear the music, which is something I thought I would never say about a movie based on a composer, or not a real composer, but about a composer, especially a generational talent that the composer is apparently in this movie. For my cold take, we got a cold take category here. Cold take is the Batman soundtrack should get nominated, period. There's just no denying the Batman soundtrack was a banger. That's all I'm gonna say, because I am gonna talk about the Batman later. But that's my cold take. Soundtrack should be nominated. I don't think it is, which is crazy. The next is top 5 guilty pleasures, okay? Let me tell you guys. There comes a movie every now and then, or movies I should say, where you watch it and you know it's not the greatest, but you can't help drop a tear, have fun, smile, laugh a lot. That's what a guilty pleasure is. And here are my 5. For number 1, we're starting off with Sonic 2. This movie was goated. Okay, listen, we got Super Mario coming out next year, or this year. Actually, we got Super Mario coming out this year, and I think that'll be kind of the standard for video game movies. But Sonic 2 just like upped what Sonic 1 did well. I thought, in terms of video game movies, I think Scott Pilgrim's probably the best still. But like, you had Detective Pikachu, which was like, okay, we're going in the right direction. Then you had Mortal Kombat, which was like, it did some things right. Didn't like the whole Cole Young thing, but I guess you gotta introduce new audiences to Mortal Kombat. And then we get Sonic 1, and it was like, wait, this is actually like pretty good. Obviously it's said like the human stuff is the worst part, but this is kind of good. And then you got Sonic 2, and it just like threw the humans out less, and when they were in here, they were a lot more fun, way more fun. But they started playing with the Sonic franchise a lot more. They started bringing in new characters, new worlds, doing new things, showing new Sonics. And I just think I thoroughly enjoyed it. It made the Sonic fan in me very, very happy. The next is going to be Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. I was never this huge fan of Chip and Dale. Like, I saw the cartoons maybe like a couple times when I was younger, but I just never like held a nostalgia spot for them. But this movie almost made me like tear up just at like the story and the little bits of nostalgia that it brought back. Even things that aren't nostalgia that make you kind of like sad cry, like, or happy cry, I guess. Like an ugly Sonic appearing is like, oh, he did end up getting to be in a movie. And it's this super fun and meta movie that acknowledges things based on real life, but it also is a good story, has great animation, it's hilarious, it's super funny, and it's just such an enjoyable time. We watched this, I watched this like one night just randomly, but it was just fun. I was like hooked, and it was quick, it went by, it was a good story, I didn't mind it. The next is gonna be a little bit of a hot take, I guess. Thor: Love and Thunder. It is not perfect. It's got jokes that aren't funny. At this, at the core of this story, it handles a such serious topic like cancer, and does not try to make it cheap and try to escape from what cancer actually is and how devastating it could be to the person that has it and the people around that person. And I think, could they have focused a lot more on it? Sure. But I thought there was a lot of fun moments in here. Kids getting powers, I don't care what you got to say. That shit was cool. The music in here, bang. Some of the CGI was off, but some of the visuals in here were really good as well. It brought a tear to my eye like twice. Listen, it's a guilty pleasure. I'm not going to put it on every day, but I definitely did not hate it like a lot of people did. For the fourth movie, I'm going to say Ambulance, directed by Michael Bay. Now, Michael Bay is not a good director, but this movie is Michael Bay at his finest. It's Michael Bay doing Michael Bay shit to the max. I thought he perfectly encapsulated that like rush that Michael Bay is really known for, and definitely tried to make this movie. It's super like fast paced, and it's got a lot of energy. It's constantly moving, and I thought the movie did a great job. He did a great job with making you feel that. It felt like shit was always happening. It's just a movie that is pure adrenaline. And yeah, I thought it was a guilty pleasure. I wouldn't like put it on like again voluntarily, but if it's on while I turn on the TV or I'm cleaning or something, I'll leave it on. I thought it was all right. Jake Gyllenhaal kills any movie that he's in. So yeah, the last movie for my number 5 guilty pleasure is gonna be Hustle with Adam Sandler. Now listen, there's a lot of sports movies that start with a player from a poor neighborhood or down on his luck, and then a coach comes in or a manager or a friend that helps him train, and they become a star. But this just got me, I'm not gonna lie, and it's because Adam Sandler is the lead. Seeing Adam Sandler just play a coach, it feels like Adam Sandler showed up to set with whatever he was wearing that day, and he just knew how to get into character because he loves basketball so much. And it definitely showed. It was a great heartwarming story. Queen Latifah's in here as his wife, which is like that is literally a queen. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was short, it was simple, but it was just something that was heartwarming. It was a feel-good movie. I'll say that. It was a feel-good movie. If you haven't watched Hustle, if you're a big fan of sports movies, basketball stuff, go ahead and give Hustle a watch. Now next, we've got a big one, the top 3 comic book movies of 2022. Now there wasn't a abundancy of comic book movies that were amazing, but I just decided to make a top 3. So for number 3, we're gonna go DC Super Pets, the animated movie that DC put out that has like Crypto the Super Dog, and it has, I believe, Ace, the Bat Hound, I'm pretty sure, and it was one of those movies that once again makes you feel good, but it's a good story at its core. It's a story about adoption and learning to embrace family and the people around you, because you never know when things are gonna happen. And it was a lot of fun. It was short. It was funny. It got some laughs out of me, especially the like old turtle in there was hilarious. But yeah, I just think it was heartwarming. We got to see some cool stuff. Nothing like crazy, but there wasn't a lot of like A-tier comic book content that came out last year, so that's why it's at number 3. Number 2 is going to be Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Ryan Coogler comes back to do a movie that he did not need to do. If you guys haven't seen my review, you guys can go ahead and check it out, but I'm gonna just keep it short and simple. The fact that they even made this movie is astonishing because they did not have to, and the fact that they managed to make a really good movie out of this with one of Marvel's best villains ever put on screen, easily with Namor. I just thought it was great. There's some stuff you could cut out. Yeah, there's some fat you can cut out, but overall, I just think with the task they had, with Chadwick's death, unfortunately, they managed to make something still that, you know, met and exceeded expectations, and I think that's truly special. For number 1, you guys already know, it's The Batman. The Batman. I was just rewatching this movie the other day, and it's still so special. The music, the way the movie even starts, Batman's presence, the detective noir story that this is, everything in this movie is top tier. I can't wait for the Batman 2, but this movie just it gets it, man. It's eerie, it's immersive. It puts you into this world of Gotham, and you feel the grit and the grime and the crime that's going on in this city. And it's almost this Seven style David Fincher movie that is a superhero movie, which is like something I would have never thought, but absolutely love. And it's this combination of like Matt Reeves' fantastic storytelling with the style of like Fincher, and it's amazing. If you haven't seen The Batman, you're drunk. What are you doing? It is amazing. The soundtrack, the score, the action in here was great. Robert Pattinson as Batman is amazing, and I cannot wait to see more of that universe. The next, we've got top 5 most surprising movies of 2022 for me. And the first movie we're going to start off with is Prey. I thought, you know, the Predator franchise was on a very steep decline. And did I have the most excitement for this movie? No. Reviews came out, and I was like, oh, this might be good. And it was great. Like, it was condensed. It didn't overstay its welcome. So it was condensed and short, but it knew the story they were telling. It took it back to the roots. It was just a thriller. It made you feel the suspense and like want to cheer on certain people. When you saw deaths, you even cheered. And it was just such a good adaptation of what's already came before it, and it's passed everything to me. I love the first Predator movie, but I think this does a better job in pretty much almost every way. Like, the music in here is amazing, the performances in here amazing, the actual Predator in here was so dope. They gave him the tech but didn't advance it too much, gave us like little hints and clues that this might be a prequel and stuff. It was great. Go watch Prey. It's an actually good Predator movie. The next is going to be Avatar: The Way of Water. I've said in my trailer reaction that I did not have like the most hype for this movie. Did I think it was going to be, you know, promising? It's a $400 million movie based on the biggest franchise in cinematic history, money-wise. And yeah, it definitely proved a lot. It was a way better movie than the first, and that's something James Cameron has done multiple times. He has managed to just figure out the sequel problem. Okay, every one of his sequels are always better, and Alien, Terminator, both kind of show that. And Avatar: The Way of Water was amazing, visually insane. It was just, you were thrown back into the world of Pandora that people were back in 2009, and it was just a better story. It had a better villain. The acting was better. The action sequences was better. The music was better. Everything was better. Go check out my Avatar review to hear my thoughts and to see exactly how I felt about that movie. Avatar: The Way of Water, definitely exceeded my expectations. The next movie is going to be Bullet Train. Now, this was something that I saw fun, and we just kind of just went out and watched it one night. And, you know, didn't have my expectations like too high. It actually got like a bad critic score. So like, and I read that like right before we went to the movie. So I was kind of like keeping an open mind. But man, this movie was a ton of fun. So Tarantino-esque, by the way, like a super Quentin Tarantino style movie, but it was amazing. Like, I found it to be interesting. It played with a lot of twists and bait and switches in the movie. Some great characters. Tangerine and Lemon will always go down. They're the GOATs. Like, they are the GOATs. But Brad Pitt was hilarious in this movie. And that's another thing. The movie was super funny. It was action-packed, but super funny. And then that third act started happening, and it got like way bigger than I thought it was gonna be. And I just thoroughly enjoyed all the twists and turns in the movie. It's like a mystery played on like a crime thriller with a taste of Quentin Tarantino. It was a great time. I believe it was directed by David Leitch. I think he did Deadpool 2. But yeah, I mean, you could definitely feel the flavor that he put in this movie. I recently rewatched Deadpool 2, and I literally could not go like more than 2 minutes without just laughing hysterically. And this movie had that same energy. It kept it the entire movie, literally up until the end. There's a bunch of cameos in this movie that were hilarious. Just a great time. If you guys haven't watched Bullet Train, you wouldn't hate it. I think it's on Netflix too, so please give it a watch. For the fourth movie, it's gonna be Werewolf by Night. When I'm talking about top 5 most surprises, Werewolf by Night was probably the biggest. There's one more movie I have on this list, but this one was kind of due to the trajectory of Marvel's Disney Plus content. You know, Loki was like where it peaked. WandaVision was amazing as well, but everything after that was very lackluster or just not enough. And then Disney puts out these special presentations. And the first one is a Halloween special directed by the guy who did the Batman score and the score for Spider-Man No Way Home. But you're like, this guy's directing? And then you hear he's also scoring, and you're going, well, what is this gonna be? And it's this 1930s and 40s old Universal horror style movie that's 40 minutes, super fun, right? Has a little bit of that, has a little bit of the creeps. It's nothing like insanely scary too. And I thought that was so good, was that it really does cater to like all audiences. Even if you've never seen a classic horror movie, Invisible Man, Wolfman from the 30s or 40s, you know, you would still like this because it's a ton of fun. The characters in here are really good. I just thought it managed to capture like the magic of what those movies back then were, while also putting in a little bit of that modern MCU flavor in here, and it definitely did not disappoint. One of the biggest surprises, this and Guardians makes me want so many more specials. I need a Deadpool Christmas special. I need one. And for the fifth movie, for the most surprising movies of 2022, it's Top Gun Maverick. I watched the first one, I want to say a day before this movie, and like, it was good. Like, it wasn't anything insanely special, and sure, I'm pretty sure that people who grew up with that movie probably have this special sense of nostalgia for it, but I think even they could agree that like it's nothing like insanely special as a movie. And the first one was like more of a love story, if anything, and this second one, let me just say, after watching, I want to say it was Doctor Strange, I was asked whether I wanted to see Elvis or Top Gun more, and I was like, Elvis, duh. One of them became a huge disappointment, and the other one became one of the best movies of 2022. Top Gun Maverick was insane. It still kept that charm and that love story that people liked from the first movie, but acts more upon the action set piece and the spectacle, but in a way that puts you in the cockpit, in the movie. It's so immersive, and that third act, I just rewatched it last night, and literally sitting down here with my headphones on, and I was just as locked in. I wasn't in a theater, and sure, that might have hindered the experience, but I was still locked in. I was sweating. I was tense. I knew what was coming. I've seen the movie already. The movie just manages to capture this magic, and it's because of the sequences. The sound design in this movie is amazing. Tom Cruise gives like one of his better performances I've ever seen. It was just a huge surprise, and I remember I didn't even watch that movie in a premium format. I came out walking out of that theater like, holy shit. Like, whatever I just watched is gonna be one of the best movies of this year. Next up, we've got top 5 disappointments. Okay, these are 5 movies that I either had a little hope for or it kind of looked good, and it ended up being quite the opposite. We're gonna start off with Halloween Ends. Halloween Ends. What can I say about this movie? Man, you build up this franchise and you start off with, in my opinion, the best Halloween movie, Halloween 2018, and then we get Kills. Halloween Kills. It's a big drop, you know, not quite a step in the right direction, but it wasn't all terrible. And they're leaning up to Laurie and Michael, right? And then we come to Halloween Ends, when it's not even really about Laurie and Michael. And sure, they have a battle in the last 10 minutes of the movie, but all I'm gonna say is, in Michael Myers' final movie of this universe, I guess I should say, Michael Myers should not let a band kid, or no, worse, it's a kid who gets bullied by band kids, step into Michael's home, beat Michael's ass, and take his mask. That is disrespecting the character to the highest degree. And I thought Laurie was great in here, but we did not get much of her, as much as I wanted, at least, because we were so focused on this other story, and it was just so disappointing. You lead up to this big battle between them two, and when we get it, it doesn't even really feel like it's happening because the movie never built up to it. I don't know, it's just a huge disappointment. For the next movie, it's Morbius. Now, I know it's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 400% audience score. I understand. Everyone loves this movie. But in all seriousness, this was one of the most catastrophic things I've seen in a while from a comic book movie. And it makes me want Sony to sell the franchise of Spider-Man like as quick as possible. And now we're making a Kraven the Hunter movie, turning him into a CIA agent. What's going on? Morbius, we've got things in the trailers that don't even play out in the movie, such as Tyrese's from Fast and Furious, his little robotic arm we see in the trailer. Nope, not in the movie. And it's this early 2000s style, it doesn't know what it wants to be, just like the first Venom movie. It doesn't want to be a horror, doesn't want to be a superhero movie. What is going on here? And there's just a lot of issues with this movie. And I remember the movie ended and my brother and I looked at each other going, that was bad. And then leading up to this, we heard like the credit scenes were terrible, and we were like, there's no way the credit scenes are worse than what we just watched for an hour and a half. There's no way. And then they managed to top themselves. They managed to break one of the better Spider-Man villains ever in live action, Vulture, ruin his character with a credit scene that makes no sense at all. And it just kept giving me flashbacks to The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Sony putting their hands in and trying to make a Sinister Six. But with that, they're sacrificing previous projects or previous directors' visions and ruining them, right? Sony did this with Mark Webb, and now they're doing it with John Watts. And I thought, there's no way they're serious. It was just, it was unbelievable how stupid and bad it was. The next is going to be Robert Zemeckis' Pinocchio. I'm not going to talk too much on this because there's another Pinocchio that I'm going to talk about in this video. But it was terrible. It had no heart, no magic. It felt flat. It felt like they just went through the motions of the normal Pinocchio movie, the normal Pinocchio story, without really making you feel for any of the characters in here. And some of these, remakes, these live action remakes by Disney end up going good, such as Cruella. Some of them end up going like this. And Robert Zemeckis has just been on a nonstop train of just disappointments. I don't think he's really there anymore. But yeah, this movie was just a huge disappointment. But the next is going to be Jurassic World Dominion. This might be the most quiet billion-dollar movie ever. I didn't hear a single person talking about this movie, yet it made $1 billion, and it very much disappointed me. Why in the hell are we, just like Halloween Ends, building up to this final movie, bringing back old characters, but a huge part of the movie is introducing a new one? Why? Why do we have to have this new character? Oh, is it because they're a pilot and because we're going to make an action piece where this pilot needs to save them, but we need to kind of explain that she's a pilot, so we kind of need a deep dive into her? Waste of an actress too. She's amazing. That should be Storm, I'm telling y'all. But it was so disappointing. There's one sequence in there though that was impressive action wise, but I just thought it felt flat everywhere. The story was whack. It ended the same way the last movie just ended. It was just disappointing. And the fifth is gonna be Elvis. I had huge hopes for this. Austin Butler should absolutely get a nomination. If he wins, I won't bat an eye because he killed it. He embodied Elvis. But outside of that, Baz Luhrmann just tried to do too much. He over stylized things, and that third act of the movie just began being so rushed. It was incoherent, and to me reminds me of that Steve or the Jobs movie with Ashton Kutcher. It's just going through the motions of Elvis's history without making you feel like the history, without making you, get in the history. Watch Rocket Man, right? Based on Elton John. That's something that's not just going through the motions. It's really deep diving into the psyche and what Elton was feeling during that era or when it takes place. And the Elvis movie just, once it starts doing that, then it just goes to the next. It just skips to the next big event. Elvis performing here. Elvis making this popular song. And it was a huge disappointment. Some of the editing was crazy. Some of the performances were over the top. I thought Tom Hanks was going to do a lot better in that movie. But maybe Baz just did not, direct him properly. I thought he was very over the top, but Austin Butler is easily the best part of that movie. The next thing we're going to give an award out here, okay? We're going to give out the worst movie of the year award. I'm just going to say it. It's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's atrocious. Don't ever see that movie in your life. I don't even want to talk about it because that would be giving it a lot more than it deserves. So we're going to move on to the next. The next is the top 5 shows of 2022 for me. I have not watched Better Call Saul. I hear that is amazing, so that would probably be in here if I watched it. But these are just the top 5 from what I watched. And I'm gonna start off with Peacemaker. I thought Peacemaker was amazing. It's this character that you just absolutely hated from the Suicide Squad, and now you love him. Now you want to just give him the biggest hug, and you love Eagly and this entire the 11th Street kids. You build up great relationships with them, and they stuck the landing in the finale, man. That was one of the better finales from any comic book show that year. The next, we're gonna go Blackbird. Blackbird's probably the best show of 2022 that I've watched. I've seen The Bear, haven't seen White Lotus, but I've seen most of the top things, and Blackbird was just amazing. Paul Walter Hauser or Hauser was amazing, embodied a character. Taron Egerton, he is amazing in this show, and it's one of these crime shows based on a real serial killer that I thought was so great. It's through the perspective, it's through a different perspective, which I think you guys like. And yeah, I think it's the best one this year. Fuck Dahmer. But Blackbird, you want to watch a really good series based on a serial killer, watch Blackbird. It's amazing. The next is going to be Stranger Things season 4. I never had watched Stranger Things leading up to the season, so I just binged 1 through 3 pretty much like a week before it released, because I heard people talking about Stranger Things season 4, and so I was like, all right, if it's that good, let me watch it. And the first season is amazing. The second season, what were they doing? The third season, all right, we're back on track. And the fourth season was also great. It brought things back up. I still think the first season's the best, but that fourth season, man, every episode was like a movie. It was an hour long. It was huge. And those final like 3 episodes, man, oh my goodness. Episode 4 is the best episode of that season. And the entire season was just amazing. It makes me so excited for season 5. And you better believe I'm going to be reacting to that shit for YouTube. Better believe it. The next for the 4th is going to be The Boys. I do think The Boys season 3 is the weakest season out of the 3. But it with what it failed in comparison to the first 2 with like writing and characterization, it leveled up with the craziness and just the introductions of and playing with other characters. It was just like, don't get me wrong, I have a problem with how they handled Billy in this series, specifically in season 3, but what they did with like Soldier Boy and his inclusion, it's amazing. The Boys season 3, you can tell it's getting bigger budgeted, more people are starting to watch it, and it's kind of embracing what it is, and I love that. I think there's some mistakes. I feel like they're kind of trying to extend the seasons a little bit, and I think Soldier Boy might be a product of that, but it doesn't matter. Soldier Boy is an amazing character. The season was still great. But if you're a bit squeamish to certain things, you probably shouldn't watch it. But if you have not checked out The Boys and you like that hard rated R graphic content, but imagine it in a superhero style show that literally parodies almost what's going on with like DC and Marvel franchises almost. It's amazing. It's a ton of fun. And yeah, I just binged like all 3 seasons within like, I want to say like 2 days. Insane. The next is gonna be The Bear. I recently just watched The Bear and it is amazing. I keep using that word, but this show, man, is special. It's something so small too. It's not a big show. It doesn't have a bunch of big stars in it, but it's this very family driven show, but also it's about like a chef who was a fine dining chef, now works at a lower tier restaurant, trying to improve it, but with that comes things that he has gone through, and it hurts his conscience and his mentality and his psyche a lot, and it plays with it very good. I love the way they ended the show as well. It stuck the landing, and I can't wait for season 2. I'm pretty sure the lead won Best Actor at the Golden Globes, which is so well deserved. You guys should definitely go check out The Bear. Next, we've got honorable mentions for my top 10 favorite movies this year. So I'm going to name 5 movies that almost made the list, but that didn't. That were so close. Number 1, we're going to start off with Knives Out, Glass Onion. I think Rian Johnson did an amazing job here. It's literally a glass onion. And it was fun. I just don't think it captured that spark that the first movie did, but it was still great. I still think it's one of the better mystery movies in here. Yeah, I think Glass Onion was just a little worse than the first, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it. Went to see it when it was in theaters, actually, not even when it was when it was on Netflix. So that was thoroughly enjoyable. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and there was some good editing and stylistic choices there as well. And Janelle Monáe killed it. For the next honorable mention, we've got The Northman. The Northman, man, it almost made this list. It's this raw, revenge story. And that's all I'm gonna say. If you like movies set in like the medieval old school times, but you want something raw, graphic almost, go watch The Northman. It's amazing. Okay, I just think it didn't make the list because I do think for most audiences it will be a bit slow. There are some performances in here that are kind of wooden, but overall I thought it was a great movie. Robert Eggers delivers again, but I still think The Lighthouse is his best movie. I love that movie, but he delivers on a movie here that was also really, really great. The next one is going to be Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. This was so close to making my top 10 favorites, but the list kept like getting bigger the more movies I watched. And Guillermo del Toro's is kind of this dark spin on a childhood classic tale that definitely hits those beats, but makes you care about Pinocchio and his papa and just the adventure that he's going on. It just makes your heart warm. It brings a tear to your eye by the end of the movie. Amazing songs in here as well. I'm pretty sure the score was done by Alexander Desplat, which did The Grand Budapest Hotel and many other Wes Anderson movies, which I love. But yeah, this Pinocchio is definitely the Pinocchio you guys should watch. If you plan on watching a Pinocchio, do not watch the Disney remake, and definitely don't watch that Russian one. Watch Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. It was amazing, and I think he just won Best Animated Picture at the Golden Globes, which is more than deserved. Another animation that made this list at number 4 is going to be Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. This movie's a fucking banger, dude. Like, the villain in here, insane. Fucking top tier, okay? Listen, top tier. And it brings this sense. Listen, I always loved the Shrek franchise, but I never like just was a crazy fanatic of it. But the movie starts and it almost puts you back into this nostalgia that you didn't even know you had for this franchise. But I mean, like, Shrek hasn't been in anything in 11 years. And then we get this, a sequel to not Shrek, the popular guy, but the spin-off Puss in Boots. And you're like, okay, I guess. And it's amazing. Puss in here is amazing. The story in here is so heartwarming. It even deals with like pretty mature things for what it's doing. The editing in here, I hear no one talking about the editing, but the editing in this movie was amazing. The art, it's easily the best looking animation of 2022 and the best looking Shrek movie ever. It's not even close. I love Puss's new design with the bigger eyes. And Kitty's soft paws, played by Salma Hayek in here, was an amazing inclusion. Once she came in the movie really started to roll the ball, because at first there's this like 10 to 15 minute intro and it's so cool. It's an amazing sequence, and you're just kind of in this adventure that it throws you in. And then Kitty's introduced, and that's when the adventure really starts to move and take place, and we get to know about certain characters throughout it, and it was just heartwarming as hell. Perrito has my heart. I want to rub his tummy. I want to rub his tummy. The next movie is going to be Prey. Prey was so close to making my top 10 of the year list. It was in my top 5 of the year for the longest, until I watched a couple movies within these last few, I want to say like 5 months. But Prey was amazing. Once again, I talked about it before, so if you want to go see a great Predator movie, it's on Hulu. Go watch Prey. It's fantastic. We are now in my top 10 favorite movies of the year. This is where the movie, this is the last part of the video. My favorite, not the best. So it's my favorite, meaning it's not your favorite. But if you do have a favorite top 10, place that in the comments below. But we're going to start off with number 10, The Outfit. This movie was, I'm pretty sure, produced by the same people who produced The Imitation Game, which is amazing. And this was just a great movie. It's something so small. It kind of takes place in like the old 1950s, and it's about a tailor or a cutter called in this movie. But to help you guys understand it, it's about a tailor who kind of just, makes suits, and he makes suits for some of these mob people, and he ends up getting in a predicament where his shop is, in this trouble that one of these mob groups are also in. So he has to kind of deal with it, and things start unraveling about his character. And it's kind of this, it plays out a little like Reservoir Dogs with Quentin Tarantino, but it has a little twist in there. And what I love is the entire movie, the entire film takes place in this shop. The whole movie. We don't go out to see what some of these people are doing. The entire movie takes place, and it feels like it was a story that the director, I believe it was Graham Moore, just knew what they wanted to tell and did it. And it was great. I have no regrets watching this movie. I'll probably watch it again, to be so honest. Dylan O'Brien was fantastic in here, and it was just this crime thriller that I thought really surprised me. For number 9, it's going to be The Fabelmans. My 9 and 8 were constantly switching. I just think Steven Spielberg's in this era right now, it seems, with his past 2 projects, West Side Story and now The Fabelmans, to where he's really trying to just, showing out his love for cinema. And The Fabelmans is quite literally a love letter to cinema. It's such a good story. I'm pretty sure it's based off of Steven Spielberg's life. A lot of people think it's lightly based. No, from what I know, it's really, really accurate to his life. And the only reason he changed character's name and didn't call it Spielberg or something is I'm pretty sure he said he didn't want, the movie to be marketed as just him, but a movie about movies, the love and craft of cinema. And it's about basically him from a child to, his first big break, falling in love with cinema and learning along the way techniques. And it's really cool to see, like, since this is taking place, a while back, to see how, low budget things were made, how you would make an explosion, for example, but you didn't have the money to buy squibs or dynamite or something. And it was really interesting, but you just see this progression of his character growing into this person that just wants to make films because that is truly what he loves doing. And he goes through some up and down, obstacles throughout the movie, especially being someone, Jewish in that era. And you get to see a telling of his parents, which was really interesting. I had no idea that stuff went on. If you guys haven't watched The Fabelmans, give it a watch if you really love movies. If you don't, if you're kind of more of a casual, I would still suggest it. I liked it personally, but it is kind of on the longer side. But the performances in here are amazing. I don't think anyone would regret it. For number 8, it's going to be The Batman. What more can I say about this movie? I've already reviewed it, so I'm gonna just say it's goated. It's the best comic book movie of 2022, and Matt Reeves delivers on such a good Batman story, and in my opinion, the best Batman movie. I think The Dark Knight's a better movie, but this right here, when I talk about Batman, this is the best Batman movie. It encapsulates the character and also kind of makes you understand, like, how much it's taken over Bruce in this movie. I can go on and on. Just go watch my review if you really want to hear what I have to say about this movie, but everything about it slaps. There's nothing that I would really say was bad about this movie at all, and if you haven't watched it, definitely give it a watch. For number 7, we've got The Banshees of Inisherin. This is just one of those movies where the screenplay just blew me away. I'm not gonna recommend this to you guys, but for those who really like to just sit and really watch a movie and we're not talking about just the action blockbuster, we're talking about a movie, right? We're talking about something that takes its time to tell a story, and the story is so simple. It's such a simple narrative, but it manages to make you so intrigued and you're locked into this relationship. It's basically about 2 friends, and one of them just one day decides not to be the other person's friend, and it starts this conflict between them. And at first you're like with the person that, you know, feels that's sad because his friend just stepped away. And as the movie goes and as the movie progresses, you're like starting to switch sides, and you either are here or here. You're not here anymore. And it's this very interesting dilemma that the characters go through, and some sad things. Barry Keoghan in this movie deserves an Oscar. I don't care. There's not a supporting actor role or performance that I have seen in 2022 that made me care more about their character, or that even hit me the way his character did. His character is instantly, you feel for him, and when you watch it, you'll see why. And it's this beautiful shot on location, but it takes its time. The script is so polished. There's no doubt this will get nominated and probably win screenplay at the Oscars. I just thoroughly loved it. If you guys want to just watch one of those great movies, Banshees of Inisherin to me was one of those. For number 6, we've got The Menu. The Menu's the best killer movie this year, or last year, easily. Loved Knives Out, cool, like to see how they run, but The Menu takes horror and spins it, right? It isn't this regular horror. It's not the gross and grimy, scary, creepy. No, this is true tension, like you're part of the movie. I'm not gonna say it's like super immersive, because I don't think it is, but the directional choices here were so good. Like there's a clap in this movie, and when you hear it, it's supposed to be a jump scare, but it's not. But as the movie goes on, they keep doing it, and the clap becomes a character in itself. It's more and more creepy. The music in here, amazing. Anya Taylor-Joy's best performance of 2022, without a doubt. Ralph Fiennes is still the best actor, in my opinion, to not have an Oscar right now. Everything he's in, he crushes it. This was a great horror movie. If you're a foodie like me, and if you like horror like me, go watch it. You literally will not be disappointed. Now we're into my top 5 favorite movies of the year. Basically, all these I recommend, period. You should watch all of these. For number 5, we're gonna go with a movie that I was stuck between 4 and 5, but I ended up putting it 5 just because of the recommendation and what I think the general public and audiences would feel more accustomed to watching. But number 5 is Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. I think this is the best animation movie this year. It definitely puts light on our lives, on the things we do daily, and how we take such small things like drinking a water bottle, puts that into a perspective where we take stuff like this completely for granted. And it's this story about a shell, and I believe the genre is a mockumentary, which is exactly what it is. It's a documentary of a shell, but it's not like based on something real, of course, so it's a mockumentary. But it's this heartwarming story of just accepting what's around you and being grateful for everything, even when you've lost some things along the way. And you know, on the journey to find those things back, you know, you could still have fun. It doesn't all have to be this super mourning and heartbreaking thing. And I thought Marcel the Shell was one of those movies that brought a tear to my eye just based on like happiness and like good. Like it wasn't something sad. It was something that was so well directed. It was a ton of fun. It was such an interesting animation too. And also I believe this was an A24 movie that was originally just a YouTube like short. There were like 5-minute shorts on YouTube, and the director got, you know, his own big feature film with A24, and A24 just has my heart. They know how to capture heart. They know how to make you really care for things, and Marcel the Shell was amazing. Number 4 is going to be Avatar: The Way of Water. This almost slipped out of my top 5, but then I rewatched it, and then rewatched it again, and then one more time. And yeah, this movie is quite literally the definition of inexperience. Avatar: The Way of Water was amazing. It is an immersive, it throws you into this world. And like I've said before, I wasn't super excited for this movie, but I had my hopes, relatively not high, but like it's a $400 million movie. I'm expecting to see some cool things. Cool. I saw some cool things. And then I saw some really cool things. And then the movie kept going. And then the third act happened. And it was amazing. Not really cool anymore. Amazing. And the story's better. I fell in love with the characters instantly. James Cameron topped, the biggest movie of all time, which is the first movie, seamlessly. And now, as someone who wasn't even excited for a sequel, now I can't wait for the next 4 movies or however many they plan on making. Now I cannot wait for them because this movie just made me fall in love with those characters that I did not care about in the first movie. I'm gonna be real. Jake, cool. Did not care about you in the first movie. Now I fuck with you, Jake. Right? Neytiri's probably like the only character I actually fucked with from the first movie. This movie, every character, top notch. It was amazing. Avatar: The Way of Water. If you haven't seen it, do not wait till it comes out on streaming. You better watch that in the theater on the biggest screen you can pay for in 3D. I'm not a fan of 3D. That movie made me love 3D. Number 3, this is my top 3 of the year. These are movies I think everyone, even kids, should watch. Their experiences, their breakers of cinema walls, and they just do things that just either hit me to my core emotionally, personally, or just blew me away mentally. And for my top 3, my third movie is gonna be RRR. Listen, I heard a lot about this movie. Even my brother watched it earlier, but I watched a bunch of people talking about this movie, and I was like, I'll get to it because I'll eventually have to, right? So I'll get to it. And there's one day, I ain't got nothing going on. It's on Netflix. Let me put it on. I was speechless. The movie starts and you're like, all right, where's this going? And then you're like, okay. So this is one of those movies. And then the movie keeps going. And it's a movie that you have to suspend your disbelief. Like, throw everything out the window that you know about realism. Throw it out the window. This movie embraces Bollywood, but more importantly, it is a cinematic experience. We're talking the music in here was amazing. I'm pretty sure it just won a Golden Globe for original song. And that song that won made me get up and start dancing. I am not joking. I was watching this in the living room, TV blasting, and that song started. I was like, okay. And then it started ramping up, and I found myself getting up and I'm literally not joking. It is a story about these friends, but it's a love story about one of them, but then there's a new love story introduced, and it's also a story about colonization and the troubles that people had with that. And it does so many things. It's 3 hours long, but it is one of those 3-hour movies where you are constantly entertained. It is genuine. The thing they play with fire and water, I got chills over one of the characters riding a horse and another one riding a motorcycle. And you know why? It's because that horse and that motorcycle almost become characters in the movie, throughout the movie. It's just, you need to watch RRR if you haven't seen it. An amazing experience. I can go all day about that movie because a bunch of people hyped it up and it way surpassed expectations. But for my number 2, this was difficult. So I put 3 movies out on Twitter on a poll. And I was just making this top 10 list. I had pretty much every movie, solidified. But there was 3 movies where I just kept mixing. Where I was like, I like this, but I kind of like this one. But this one has this. And I kept switching them. And they were constantly moving up and down. And so I just told you guys to vote. I put out the 3 movies on Twitter. And you guys chose. which one y'all like the best, which one y'all like the second best, which one y'all like the third best. Because let's be honest, all three that I put out were amazing. The third was Avatar: The Way of Water. And for number two, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think this movie is the definition of what like cinema is. And when you look at this, and even if you haven't made a film, just try and look at it from the perspective of a filmmaker and how difficult the pieces of this puzzle are to accomplish and to actually make an audience member cry over, you know, someone taking a butt plug out of them. You know, crying over two rocks talking. We're not even talking about vocally, just words on screen. You know, this movie is quite literally the definition of an experience, of a cinematic experience. And there are some things where this is another movie that you got to completely suspend your disbelief. But there are some things that happen throughout this movie where it's like, oh, that was a bit too much. But then you're right back in. Then you're like, oh wait, no, it wasn't, because it's this type of movie. And the performances in here by Michelle Yeoh, 𝙭𝙀🙗, and the daughter, I forget her name, but she was fantastic. I'm pretty sure she was in Shang-Chi too. But I went to watch this movie one day, and it was random. It was on like a Saturday, and I was genuinely in the theater, just like mind blown at what I was looking at. I was like, this is the best multiverse movie of this year, by the way, of 2022. And it's this heartwarming and just heartfelt movie about family and learning to accept, you know, what's there, and, you know, accept what's not, and not to force things because, you know, out of love you might want to. And it's such a great character arc in this movie for Michelle Yeoh's character specifically, and it was just special. It's divided up into these sections that's so interesting, and I can go on forever about what this movie achieves. And all I'm gonna say is, once again, A24. I mean, we've got two A24 movies in my top 5. They just know what they're doing. They have always known what they're doing. Mid-90s, right? Spectacular Now, like these, like Uncut Gems, like some of the greatest movies I've watched. And A24 knows how to capture, you know, creative vision, but put that magic in there that makes you really care about a character or an experience, or have the movie connect and hit you on a personal level. And not that this movie like was personal to me, but it did, you know, it brought a tear to my eye by the end of the movie. The music in here was great. It had a gracious look, like feeling to it, but it was hectic at the same time. And I think that contrast constantly plays with each other throughout the movie. And it was just, it's a mind fuck of a movie that it almost made my favorite movie of the year. But those little faults in it, you know, the little weird parts kind of dropped it just barely below. But this movie was amazing. For number one, it's Top Gun Maverick. It's the best movie of the year. Now, there are two movies I have not watched that probably would have made this list. I'll say them right now. One of them is The Whale, featuring Brendan Fraser, but I've heard mixed things on that. And the other is Babylon, which I've also heard mixed things, but people I know and I trust have said they loved it. And I believe it just won for best score at the Golden Globes. Justin Hurwitz. I mean, he's going for a three-peat, you know. And I love Damien Chazelle, by the way, so probably gonna love that movie. But we'll see. It's 3 hours. It's also a love letter to cinema, but it is definitely a hate letter to Hollywood, from what I'm hearing. But back to Top Gun. I just rewatched this, and now I've only watched it twice before this, so the second time I watched it was a while ago, and I thought, Top Gun's one of the best movies of the year, but that love story stuff kind of took away from the movie, right? That's just what I kept thinking, because when I would think of the movie, I would go, oh, the love stuff kind of overstayed its welcome a little bit. But I just rewatched this movie literally last night, and this movie is better on rewatch. It is genuinely better on rewatch. That love story is definitely does not overstay its welcome. It is not even that long. I thought this movie was like 2.5 hours. It's barely 2. It is an experience. You put this on in a dark room, you're gonna feel like you're fucking flying at Mach 10. Like you really are in the movie. And I just think that's something special, right? So the thing about cinema, what I love is it should give you an experience. And yes, Avatar definitely threw you in the world of Pandora, but like I don't feel like a Na'vi, right? Like Top Gun made me feel like a fucking pilot. Like I was genuinely scared for my own life that I was gonna die to one of these missiles. And it's mind-blowing how it was a movie I literally did not care at all about. Like Avatar, I wasn't like excited, but sure, I cared that there's a second movie to the biggest movie of all time. I didn't care about this. And I watch it, and I'm just mind-blown. The stunts in here, that's one thing I love. I'll take practical effects over visual effects most of the time. Don't get me wrong, as a graphic designer, someone I've worked in, with CGI and, and done visual effects. And I know how you can bring something to life, bring a dream to life with that. But this movie mixed it so well, seamlessly, by the way. It was just like, on one hand, I'm like, don't make a sequel because you're not going to top this. But on the other, I'm like, I want to see more of that plane shit. But yeah, that's going to be it for the video. Top Gun Maverick, easily the best movie of 2022 to me. It was amazing. I can go on and on about, how much I was locked in and my jaw was dropped watching the entire movie, and just how special of an experience that was. And I didn't even watch it in a great theater like that. I watched the Avatar in the biggest screen ever, and on the best, or not the biggest, but the best screen possible. I watched it in Dolby. I watched Top Gun in a digital theater right by my house, and I was just as locked in. I can't imagine watching that movie in one of those premium formats. But yeah, guys, you guys, once again, comment below your favorite, your worst, anything, any of my categories, or even your own, in the comments below. There are a lot of movies that are released in 2022, but 2023 is looking to be even bigger. And I'll be putting out my top 10 most anticipated movies of 2023 very soon. But yes, guys, once again, comment below your favorites. Make sure you hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. And please do not forget to hit that subscribe button. Check out all the socials linked in the description below, including my Patreon. But other than that, guys, it has been your boy 𝙎𝙬🙧. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.